My daughter, pale and fragile, looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Mom gave me some vitamins again," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. The truth, whatever it was, had to come out no matter who it hurt. Has something like this ever happened to you? Tell me your story in the comments. I walked through the door, the familiar scent of home, mixing with the mustiness of a house left too long untouched. The moment I saw her, my breath caught. Emily was slumped on the couch, pale, her arms wrapped around her like she was trying to hold herself together. The girl who once had so much energy now looked like a shadow of herself. "Emily," I said, trying to steady my voice, "what's going on?" She lifted her head slowly, her eyes bloodshot, filled with something I couldn't quite place. "Dad, I feel strange." Her voice cracked the words barely above a whisper. "What happened?" I crouched down in front of her, searching her face. I could see the weight of something heavy pressing down on her, but what? She swallowed hard, tears brimming in her eyes. "Mom, she gave me some vitamins again." "I don't know, Dad. I just kept sleeping. For hours." Her voice trailed off. The pit in my stomach deepened, the unease slowly coiling into something sharper. "What do you mean, vitamins?" I asked, standing up and glancing around the room. My eyes fell on the counter where a small bottle sat, white, unmarked. I grabbed it without thinking. The label was gone, just a blank surface, no indication of what it really was. "Where did she get this?" I muttered, turning it over in my hand. The bottle seemed so innocent. Too innocent. Without another word, I helped Emily to the car. At the hospital, the doctors didn't mince words. High doses of sedatives. I felt the blood drain from my face. She had been drugged, and the only person who had access to her was Jessica. Back at home, I didn't even want to speak, but I had to. Jessica was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. I tossed the bottle on the table. "Explain this," I said, my voice tight. "Explain why our daughter's been drugged." She looked at the bottle, then at me, a flicker of something guilt, maybe crossing her face before she quickly masked it. "What are you talking about?" "That's just vitamins. She's been tired lately." "Vitamins. You call this vitamins?" I snapped, my voice rising. "You let her sleep for hours. You drugged her. I did no such thing." She shot back, standing up so fast I almost flinched. "She needed them. She's been off lately. I thought she'd feel better." Her words hit me like a slap, the rage bubbling up from deep inside. "Don't lie to me, Jessica. I know what this is. You've been hiding something. This," I motioned toward the bottle, "is not just vitamins. What's really going on?" She took a step back, eyes narrowing. "You're overreacting. There's nothing going on. You're blowing this out of proportion." My heart pounded. No. This ends now. The days dragged on, each one blending into the next. I couldn't stop replaying the scene, the hollow look in Emily's eyes, her whisper about the vitamins, and the cold bottle in my hand. The doctors had been clear sedatives in a high enough dose to leave her unconscious for hours. I felt sick. But worse, I felt powerless. Each time I passed the kitchen or stood in the hallway, I caught myself looking over my shoulder, expecting to see something I wasn't ready to face. The weight of it all pressed down on me. The uncertainty, the fear. Was I overreacting? Was I imagining things? Or was something darker brewing, something I couldn't ignore any longer? I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to Emily, her pale face, her fragile voice. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still in danger. Every time I looked at Jessica, a part of me couldn't help but wonder how much of this was her fault. How much she knew how much she was hiding. That night, as I sat in the living room, Jessica came in from the kitchen, a glass of wine in her hand. She smiled like everything was normal, but I saw the tension in her eyes. She knew something had shifted. She just didn't know how far I was willing to go. "You're home late," she said casually, sitting down on the couch across from me. Her eyes flickered to the TV, then quickly back to me. "How was work?" I didn't answer right away. My mind was elsewhere, piecing together the things I had found: the sudden money withdrawals from the account, the late-night calls, the secrecy. Something wasn't adding up, and I needed answers. "Work's fine," I said, setting the papers I'd been looking at aside. "How's Emily?" Jessica's eyes softened for a moment. "She's better, I think. Still a little tired, but I'm sure it's just stress. You know how it is. She has a lot going on." I clenched my fists in my lap, trying to keep my tone steady. "She's been drugged, Jessica. You're telling me it's just stress?" Her face tightened at the mention of the word drugged. She took a deep breath, a practiced calmness settling over her. "I don't know what you're talking about. That's absurd. She's been under a lot of pressure lately, and I thought the vitamins would help her." "Vitamins?" I repeated, my voice tight. "What vitamins, Jessica?" "That's not what happened." She shook her head, her fingers gripping the wine glass a little too tightly. "I've told you. There's nothing to worry about. Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" I leaned forward, my voice lower now, but no less intense. "You don't get it. She could have died, Jessica. Do you even realize what you've done?" Her expression faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "Don't act like I'm the only one who's been taking care of her. I'm her mother. I'm the one who's been here for her. I never said you weren't," I snapped. "But this is beyond anything a mother should do to her child." She stood abruptly, her eyes flashing with anger. "You're overreacting. You always do. You don't understand what it's like, how much I've had to handle." I stood too, the space between us shrinking. "I don't understand," I whispered harshly. "You drugged our daughter, Jessica. That's what I don't understand." For a moment the room was silent. I could see her jaw tightening the anger, and something darker swirling beneath the surface. I knew I had hit a nerve, but I couldn't stop. I needed answers. "Fine," she said, finally turning away and pacing toward the kitchen. "Do whatever you want. But don't act like I'm the only one who's made mistakes here." The words hung in the air, thick with accusation, yet they didn't satisfy the emptiness I felt. She had deflected again. There was no real admission, no apology, no acknowledgement of the damage she'd caused. I could feel the gap between us widening with every word she spoke, every lie she told. That night, I barely slept. The weight of the decision to put cameras in the house sat heavily on my chest. It wasn't just the betrayal I feared, it was the unknown. What had Jessica really been hiding all this time? The next morning I met with Rosa, a friend I trusted. She was the only one who knew what I was going through, someone who had been through her own battles with family. As we sat at a cafe, she took one look at me and raised an eyebrow. "You're still obsessing over this, aren't you?" she asked, gently stirring her coffee. "Look, I get it, but you can't do this alone. You've got to let it unfold." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my actions. "I have to know the truth, Rosa. If I don't do something, no one else will. Sometimes letting things play out is harder than controlling them," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But I'll tell you this. You can't fix what's already broken. You have to focus on what matters now. Emily, she's the one who needs you." Her words hit home. I wanted to do what was right, but at what cost I hadn't been looking for it. But there it was, tucked between the bills in a drawer, just waiting for me to find it. A hotel receipt. The date was clear, the location, not so much. It wasn't a place Jessica or I would have stayed at, certainly not without reason. I studied it for a few seconds, trying to make sense of it. The numbers on the receipt charges for a night's stay meals room service, none of it made any sense. Jessica had never mentioned this trip. My heart beat faster. There were a dozen questions racing through my mind, but the biggest one was, why didn't she tell me? I pulled out my phone and checked our bank statement. There it was in black and white. A withdrawal from our joint account, one that didn't match any of our regular transactions. $1,000 taken just a few days before the hotel receipt was dated. I exhaled slowly, my pulse picking up again. It was too much. This wasn't just a small mistake or a slip-up. Something was happening, and I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see it. Later that evening, Jessica came home, her face as unreadable as ever. As she walked into the living room, she must have seen the way I was holding the bank statement, the receipt from the hotel, clenched in my hand. Her smile faltered just slightly, but she recovered fast. "Michael, what is it? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't say anything at first, just laid the documents down on the table. "Can you explain this?" I asked, pointing to the receipt and the withdrawal. She glanced at it, and for a moment I saw something in her eyes, an emotion I couldn't quite place. Then just as quickly it was gone. That's from a business trip I took," she said, her voice too calm. "You know, for work. I told you about it." "No, you didn't," I shot back, leaning forward. "You didn't tell me about this hotel or this withdrawal, and I sure as hell didn't see any business expenses from your company for it." Jessica's lips pressed together, her shoulders stiffening. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat, avoiding my gaze. "Michael, you're making this into something it's not. It was just a short trip. I didn't think it was worth mentioning. Why are you overreacting about something so small?" "Small." My voice grew louder. "You're telling me $1,000 a hotel room and no explanation is small. You're lying, Jessica. And it's not the first time." I watched as her expression hardened. For a split second, she looked like she wanted to say something else, but instead she just stood up, pacing across the room. "I told you there's nothing to explain. This is just a misunderstanding. A small mistake. You always jump to conclusions." "Stop," I interrupted, standing up too. My fists clenched. "I've been finding things, Jessica. Things that don't add up. This," I motioned toward the papers. "This is just the beginning. The money, the hotel, the lies. And now you're telling me it's nothing. It's not nothing. It's everything. You've been hiding something from me for a long time, and I want to know what it is." She froze her back to me now, arms crossed. "I don't have to explain myself to you, Michael," she said coldly. "I'm doing what I have to do. I don't owe you any explanations." I could feel the anger rising in me, but beneath it there was fear. I'd been so sure of everything before, so confident in the life we had. But now, with every lie, every omission, it was like the ground was slipping away from beneath me. I didn't know what to believe anymore. "Is there anyone else?" My voice is quieter, but no less intense. "What are you talking about?" I didn't answer her question. The silence in the room said it all. The next day I went to Rosa's. She was the only person who understood. The only person I could talk to without feeling like I was losing myself. When she opened the door, she could tell right away. I didn't have to say anything. "Michael, you've been to the edge, haven't you?" she asked, stepping aside to let me in. Her voice was soft, but her eyes were sharp. I don't know what to do, running my hand through my hair. "I feel like I'm losing my mind. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm just imagining things, but I can't stop? I have to know the truth. I can't just walk away from this." Rosa looked at me. "You have to trust yourself, Michael. You're not wrong. But you've got to be careful. This is more than just what you see on the surface. If you dig too deep, it's going to get uglier. And you need to be ready for that." I don't know if I can handle it. I thought I knew who she was. But now, I don't even recognize her." Rosa gave me a sympathetic look. "No one ever tells you how much it hurts when the person you trust most turns out to be hiding things. But you've got to keep going. You're doing this for Emily, Michael. Don't forget that." I walked into the house early, expecting the usual calm. But the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. The silence hit me first, thicker than usual. My mind was still cluttered with the evidence I'd found, but the uneasy feeling growing in my chest had nothing to do with bank statements or receipts. It was different. Followed the familiar path down the hall, my steps slow but steady. And then I heard the soft murmur of voices. Jessica, her arms wrapped around someone. A man I didn't know. Their lips were pressed together. It was like everything I had been trying to ignore suddenly came crashing down in one brutal moment. For a second, the room spun around me. My breath caught, and my heart pounded in my chest. The sight of them together hit harder than anything I had imagined. The woman I had loved, the mother of my child, my wife, was in the arms of another man. Jessica pulled away quickly, her eyes wide, as if she hadn't expected me to walk in. The man, equally shocked, stood frozen, his hands still in the air, like he didn't know whether to put them down. "What the hell is going on here?" My voice barely sounded like mine. It was shaking tight with disbelief and anger. Michael, Jessica started, but her words trailed off as she saw my expression. Her eyes flitted to the man beside her. I should have known, I said more to myself than to her. I should have known all along. This is what you've been doing behind my back." Jessica stepped forward, her face flush with guilt and fear. "Michael, it's not what you think. It's complicated, okay? I didn't mean for it to happen." "Complicated?" I scoffed. "You're sleeping with him and you're telling me it's complicated." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "No more lies, Jessica. I've been patient. I've been holding back, but not anymore." I could see her flinch at my words, her face turning pale. She looked like she might break down right there, but she didn't. Instead, she stood her ground. "You don't understand. I've been miserable, Michael. You've been so distant. We've been living separate lives for months." The pain of her confession hit me like a punch to the gut. "So you've been seeing him all this time behind my back. How long, Jessica? How long has this been going on? I didn't want to hurt you," she said, her voice cracking. "It was just one night. And then it happened again. But you never paid attention to me. You were always busy with work, with everything else." Her words stung, but they didn't change the fact that she had crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I turned away from her and walked toward the door. I needed space, needed to breathe. But as I walked past the counter, I saw it. Another credit card statement, this time with charges that made my blood run cold. "Expensive jewelry, a weekend getaway for two. How many times have you used our money for this affair? How many She hesitated, looking down at the floor. "It's not like that. I didn't know what else to do. I was trying to make up for the loneliness." "That's it. You've been lying to me, stealing from me, and for what, your own happiness." Then, just as I was about to say more, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find her mother standing there, her face pale, her hands wringing the strap of her purse. She stepped inside, glancing between Jessica and me, her eyes immediately landing on the man who was still standing in the living room, awkwardly shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "Mom!" Jessica's voice wavered, and for a moment I saw the faintest trace of fear in her eyes. But then her mother did something I didn't expect. She walked straight over to Jessica, her gaze hardening. "You've gone too far this time," her mother said, her voice trembling but firm. "I can't stay quiet about this anymore. You've hurt Michael. You've hurt Emily." Mom Jessica started to protest, but her mother raised a hand to silence her. "No. I've seen enough," she continued. "I saw it all. I can't pretend I didn't. Michael deserves better, and I'll do whatever I can to protect Emily. I'll testify. I'll do whatever it takes." Jessica's face turned ashen. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I watched her feeling nothing but anger and betrayal. Her own mother was standing against her. The woman who had once supported her had now sided with me. The pressure was unbearable. Each day, more evidence piled up, making it harder to breathe. The truth about Jessica and her affair was clearer than ever yet. Every conversation with her only fueled the fire. She was relentless, always justifying her actions, playing the victim. And I was starting to feel like I was losing myself in the process. Every night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the growing pile of proof that she had betrayed me. The receipts, the bank statements, the hotel stays, they all pointed to the same thing. She had crossed a line, but she was still so calm, so convincing when she spoke to me. "You're just making this harder than it needs to be," Jessica said one evening after I confronted her again. Her voice was cool, a stark contrast to the rage bubbling inside me. "This is about us, Michael. This isn't about some hotel room. It's about what we've become." "I'm sorry." "Okay. Sorry," I scoffed, standing up and pacing in front of her. "You think a simple apology is going to fix this?" She hesitated, her eyes darting away, but she quickly regained her composure. "I never wanted to hurt you. You have to understand that." "You think I don't?" I shot back. "I've spent weeks drowning in this mess, trying to make sense of your lies. I should have seen it sooner. This isn't just some misunderstanding, Jessica. This is betrayal." Her face hardened. "You're not blameless here either. You've been distant, preoccupied. You've ignored me for years. You haven't even noticed what was going on." I stopped pacing and looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. Was she right? Had I been so caught up in work that I ignored the cracks forming in our marriage? But that didn't excuse what she had done. Nothing could. The guilt began to creep in. Was this all my fault? Had I really neglected her for so long that this was the only way she could cope? My mind spun with doubt. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just my fault. She had made a choice, and now we were both paying for it. But the pressure wasn't just coming from Jessica. It was building from all directions. Family members, friends, everyone was taking sides, and it felt like no matter what I did, I couldn't win. Then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, she upped the ante. Jessica began to reach out to our closest friends and family, twisting the narrative to make herself look like the wronged one. She told them how controlling I had been, how I had shut her out for years. The lies grew more elaborate, and I felt like I was losing the war without even fighting. I tried to hold my ground, but the emotional toll was unbearable. Was she right? Had I been too cold? Too distant? Then one afternoon, I received a call from Rosa. She could hear it in my voice when I picked up. "Michael, I know you're struggling," she said gently, "but you can't let her drag you down like this. You know the truth. You have the evidence. Don't let her manipulate you." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge of doubt. Rosa had always been there for me, reminding me of what really mattered. Emily. She was the one I needed to fight for. Not Jessica. Not the mess we had made of our marriage. But my daughter. "She's going to fight back Rosa," I said, rubbing my temples. "She's already trying to turn everyone against me. I feel like I'm sinking deeper into this. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." "Michael, you've got to stay focused. This isn't about saving your marriage anymore. It's about saving your family. Emily needs you to be strong. You can't let Jessica win this." Her words hit home. I knew she was right. I had been so focused on Jessica, on what she had done, that I had lost sight of what mattered. Emily needed me, and I couldn't afford to fall apart now. Later that evening, Jessica's mother came over. She had heard the news, and unlike Jessica, she wasn't here to make excuses. She was here to face the truth. When she entered the house, her gaze locked onto Jessica first, and then shifted to me. "I can't sit by and let this go on anymore," she said, her voice steady. "You've hurt Michael, you've hurt Emily, and I won't stand by and let you destroy this family. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my granddaughter." I was stunned. Never expected her mother to take my side, but in that moment her words gave me the strength I needed. Someone was finally standing up for what was right. Jessica's face turned pale, and for a moment I saw the smallest crack in her armor. But she didn't speak. She couldn't. Her mother had spoken the truth, and there was no way around it anymore. "I'm taking this to court, Jessica," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I have all the evidence, and I'm going to make sure Emily is safe. I won't let you drag her into this any longer." She opened her mouth to protest, but I didn't give her the chance to speak. "This is over," I said, my mind made up. "You've made your choices. Now I'm making mine." As I walked out of the room, the reality of what I was about to do settled in. This wasn't going to be easy. It was going to be a fight, a long, painful fight. But I wasn't backing down. I had come this far, and I was going to see it through. For Emily. For us. The call came when I least expected it. I was sitting in my study papers scattered around me, piecing together the mess Jessica had left behind. The trial was looming. My hands were shaking and my mind was clouded with doubt. I was exhausted from digging through receipts, witness statements, and everything in between. But none of it felt like enough. Then the phone rang. I picked it up without thinking. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, a low, steady tone. "Mr. Harris, my name is Ethan Wilder. I used to work with your wife. I know what's been going on." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean? Who is this? I have information." Ethan continued, his voice calm but urgent. "I worked in finance at her company. There are some things you don't know about the way she's been handling money. Some transactions that should have never happened." I sat up straight, the weight of his words sinking in. My heart raced. This was it. This was the break I needed. "Tell me everything," I said, barely holding myself together. "I'm listening." Ethan didn't waste time. He laid it all out, how Jessica had been moving money around, large sums, some of it from our joint account, and sending it to an unknown destination. He mentioned that it wasn't just personal spending. It was more than that. He talked about the hotel charges, the expensive gifts she had bought for her lover, and the way she had manipulated the company's accounts to cover her tracks. I could feel the blood draining from my face as he spoke. The evidence I had gathered was nothing compared to what he was telling me. This was far worse than I had imagined. The affair wasn't just an emotional betrayal. Jessica had been hiding financial crimes. "I can get you the paperwork, the records," Ethan said. "But you have to act fast. If she finds out I'm talking to you, I'm done." I told him I'd be in touch, but my mind was already racing. I hung up feeling a mix of disbelief and hope. This was my chance, but I still couldn't shake the feeling of dread. What if I was too late? What if the damage had already been done? In the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about the new information. The walls were closing in on Jessica. Yet even as I moved closer to the truth, I could hear her voice in my head defending herself. She was always so convincing. She knew just how to twist the narrative to make me doubt myself. But now I had something real. I started pulling the pieces together, matching dates, amounts, accounts. Ethan had come through with the records just as promised. The transactions were clear. There were payments to the hotel gifts purchased from luxury stores, all under different names. Jessica had used our joint funds to cover up the affair. She had lied to me for months, maybe longer, but the pressure kept building. Jessica didn't back down. She fought back harder than I expected, twisting everything I had found into something that made me look like the villain. She spoke to our friends, our family, pulling them into the lie. She made sure they all knew how controlling I had been, how distant I had grown. She painted me as the one who had ruined everything, and no one could see the truth but her. Then Rosa called again. "Michael, don't you dare back down now," she said, her voice firm, but filled with compassion. "You've come this far. You know what she's done. Don't let her rewrite the story. You're doing this for Emily, for your family." Her words hit me hard, and I realized she was right. This wasn't just about Jessica. It was about everything I had worked for. My family, my daughter. I couldn't let Jessica's lies destroy everything. Still, the doubt lingered. The trial was coming. Lisa's defense was getting stronger. She was pulling out all the stops, including using our closest friends against me. But I knew I couldn't let that stop me. I had to stay the course. So I would use the evidence from Ethan, the proof of what she had done, to expose her. The thought of it terrified me, facing her in court, exposing everything for the world to see. But I couldn't back out now. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about what she had done to me, to Emily, and to our life. I couldn't let her control the narrative any longer. The day before the trial, I called Ethan. He confirmed everything again, assuring me the records would hold up in court. But just as I was preparing to make my move, I received another call from an unexpected source. It was Jessica. "I know what you're planning, Michael," she said, her voice cold. "But you don't realize what you're about to do. This isn't just going to affect me. It's going to destroy everything. You'll regret it. You'll regret taking this to court." For a moment, I hesitated. The fear in her voice was genuine, but I wasn't going to be swayed. "Not now." "I'm not backing down," I said, my voice steady. "You've had your chance to fix this. It's too late." The courtroom was tense, suffocating as the day of reckoning finally arrived. My hands were clammy, but I felt a strange calmness beneath the surface. The doubt that had plagued me for weeks, the fears that had almost consumed me, seemed distant now. I had reached a point of no return. There was no more room for hesitation. This was it. Lisa had fought hard to keep her secrets hidden, but the pieces I had gathered, the financial records, the video footage, the testimonies, were undeniable. I could feel the power of the truth pushing me forward, forcing me to stand taller than I had before. My lawyer leaned over. "You've got this, Michael. Just stick to the facts." The words were simple, but they gave me the strength to keep my focus. The first witnesses had already taken the stand, and Lisa's side was putting up a strong defense, trying to paint me as the villain, the one who had neglected his family. But with every lie they told, I felt my resolve growing stronger. I had waited for this moment, the chance to prove that everything Lisa had done was no longer something she could keep hidden. Then it was time. The moment had arrived to present the evidence I had worked so hard to uncover. I stood my legs steady as I walked toward the witness stand, holding up the stack of documents. "Your Honor," I said, my voice firm but steady, "I present to you the evidence that has been hidden for far too long." I handed over the financial records, the receipts, the transactions that no one could deny. This is proof of the illegal activities my wife Lisa Harris has engaged in. I have more video footage showing her manipulation of funds documents that she tried to conceal from both me and the court. The truth is now out. I watched as the judge leafed through the pages, his expression unreadable. Lisa's face, however, was a study in panic. Her lawyer tried to speak to refute the evidence, but the weight of it all was too much. Lisa knew she had no escape. "You're lying," she spat, her eyes burning with a mixture of anger and fear. "You've always been controlling. You've twisted everything." I stood my ground, not allowing her words to sway me. "This is the truth, Lisa. You can't run from it anymore. These aren't accusations, they are facts. You've manipulated everyone around you, and now it's time for you to face the consequences." Her lawyer attempted to shift the focus back onto me, but it was too late. The evidence was clear. I saw the look of defeat in Lisa's eyes, the realization that the walls had come crashing down around her. She was losing, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The judge called for a short recess. As I stood up, my heart was pounding. This wasn't over yet, but it felt like the tide was finally turning in my favor. I didn't feel the satisfaction I expected. There was no triumph in seeing Lisa exposed, no sense of victory in her unraveling. But there was relief. At least now the truth was in the open. The truth I had fought so hard to uncover. The recess was brief, and soon enough we were back in the courtroom. The judge looked at both sides before speaking. The evidence presented is overwhelming. "Lisa Harris, your actions have put your family in jeopardy, and the court will take all of this into account." Lisa's face was pale now, her earlier defiance completely gone. She slumped in her chair, defeated, as the gravity of the situation settled over her. When it was time for closing arguments, I didn't need to say much. The truth was already on the table. I simply looked at Lisa, my gaze steady and unflinching. "You've destroyed everything, Lisa. But this isn't about me, it's about Emily. It's about protecting her from you, from this madness." The room was silent for a long moment. Even the spectators seemed to hold their breath. Lisa didn't respond. She couldn't. As the final deliberations were made, I felt a strange sense of clarity wash over me. I had done everything I could. I had fought for my family, for Emily. But the battle wasn't over yet. There was still more to come, still more to fight for. When the judge finally called the court back to order, he addressed Lisa directly. "The court finds you guilty of financial misconduct, manipulation, and reckless endangerment of your child. You will be held accountable for your actions." For the first time, Lisa didn't argue. She simply nodded her shoulders, sagging with defeat. She had no more excuses. The lies had run their course. As the court session concluded, I felt a wave of exhaustion sweep over me. The fight was far from over. There would be more legal battles, more struggles ahead. But for now, I had won. The truth had won. I didn't look back as I left the courtroom. Lisa's defeat didn't bring peace, but it offered something steadier: freedom. A clean break, space to rebuild, space to breathe. Emily filled my thoughts on the walk out. She had been the reason for every step, every long night, every risk. For the first time in months, a future for her felt possible again, one untouched by the chaos Jessica had left behind. The courtroom door closed behind me, taking the pressure and uncertainty with it. It felt like a release more than a triumph. Through the entire ordeal, the real battle had been with a deeper fear harming my own daughter by dragging the truth into the light. For so long, the thought of her being scarred by this war kept me awake. Yet standing on the other side of it, the realization sank in protecting her hadn't meant shielding her from the truth, but from the person who twisted it. Love isn't endless sacrifice. It isn't letting someone else bend you to their will. It's stepping forward when silence would be easier and doing whatever it takes to keep the people you love safe. That lesson came hard, but it came. The weight of everything that had happened still clung to me, though it no longer dictated every breath. No more hiding, no more tiptoeing around Jessica's manipulations. The man walking out of the courthouse wasn't the same one who walked in months ago. Vulnerability had been faced head-on, and strength grew in its place. Emily wasn't the only one freed today. Lisa now had to face the consequences she created. The ruling stripped her of the things she clung to control: image leverage over Emily. Her visitation rights were slashed, her reputation in shambles. The judge's words kept replaying. Your actions have shown a complete disregard for the well-being of your family. Cold justice, nothing more. Revenge never mattered. Emily did. There was nothing to say to Lisa afterward. The past couldn't be undone. The damage couldn't be smoothed over. Any faint notion of reconciliation or forgiveness, if such a thing even existed, held no weight anymore. Trust had been shattered long before the verdict. Life shifted to rebuilding. Emily and I moved to a small place in Lincoln Park, a neighborhood that didn't carry memories of fights or court filings. It wasn't luxurious, but it was ours. A place to settle, to heal, to start again. Work no longer meant corporate deadlines or survival mode. Purpose found its way back through smaller, more meaningful steps. Volunteering with local kids, helping with education programs, setting up a scholarship in Emily's name, something that would outlive all the turmoil. Giving back felt grounding in a way the old life never had. The corporate world held no appeal anymore. Instead, time went toward mentoring people piecing their lives together after their own storms. The work wasn't glamorous, but it mattered, and that was enough. Jessica's family drifted in and out. Some kept their distance, unsure of how to approach the aftermath. Others, like her mother, stayed in touch with surprising gentleness. Through it all, Rosa remained steady, a reliable voice, never pushing, never judging, simply present. Not every loose end needed tying. Life with Emily softened. We traveled, explored hobbies she'd been too overwhelmed to try before. Gradually, the spark in her eyes returned. Strength grew. Confidence returned. Healing wasn't fast, but it was happening. There were quiet moments when the past resurfaced, sharp, unwelcome, but they didn't control anything anymore. Forward motion mattered more than circling old wounds. Life demanded momentum. Little by little, the pieces settled. The man who once walked on eggshells around conflict didn't exist anymore. Something sturdier took his place, someone who knew what mattered and what didn't. No need to impress anyone. No need to fight for a place in someone else's world. Looking back at Lisa wasn't necessary. Closure wasn't either. What mattered was the life being built now, the people who stayed, the daughter who was thriving, and the peace that finally settled in after too many months of turmoil. Peace didn't come from winning. It came from walking away and not needing to return.